Hi everyone. Today I'm beginning a brand new series talking about everything wrong with this terrible book, Kim, Empty Inside by the late fraud Dr. Beatrice Sparks, who should have been in jail for pretending to be a psychologist and a PhD, even on paper. That's kind of a crime in many states, including Utah, where she lived. And anyway, this is based off of the blog post I just published today, the 29th of January, 2025. I'm not sure it'll be run nearly as long as the series I did talking about everything wrong with one of her other books, It Happened to Nancy, because just look at this. It's not nearly as long and relatively substantial, so to speak, as Nancy, and I have not yet nearly finished reading the book, so I'm just basing this on what I have read so far, coupled with, skimming through it and reading other people's reviews. It's bad. It's down to the old fraud's usual terrible standards. It's, some writers, I mean, she was never a good writer, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying even her best books, relatively speaking, or grand literary masterpieces or anywhere close to it, but it seems like she put her best, fairly relatively most strongest efforts, she was at least, trying to write somewhat coherent, compelling story in her first couple of books, and then she just began getting worse and worse and worse. It's her books after It Happened to Nancy, they're pretty much not really worth your time at all. They're just bad, 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 and they just pretty much kept getting worse. Although her final published book, I'm Finding Katie, it's kind of all right by her standards. I gave it a 3 out of 5. And so anyway, let's just start ripping this terrible, awful book apart. Beatrice Sparks's 2002 fake diary about eating disorders is just as rank as all of her other books, replete with all of her usual hallmarks, making her authorship blatantly obvious. And I have a whole previous video about how to write a book in the style of Dr. Beatrice Sparks. Let's start ripping into it. Number 1. Since I put more research effort into her books than she did, seriously, you should be embarrassed when readers are caring more about checking details than the author and not just tiny nitpicks, big major things. I checked the dates to see which years it is set in. Besides the days of the week assigned to dates of the month, the dates of Easter and Thanksgiving were also given. I wonder what calendar year she was using for that one. Though the dates correspond to 2001 to 2002, Dr. Fraud made a major goof by having it go till May, when the book was published on the 16th of April 2002. And I should also mention, before we get much further into this, a couple of these points in the first 20 things wrong with the book, I did briefly go over them in my most recent video giving the general overview, but hopefully I will be giving some more and different details in this one. Number 2, this one absolutely shocked me. Also a major goof related to the real-life dating. She didn't think through, what else is new. She never thought anything through when she, planned these crappy books. Kim's journal skips from, wait for this one, the 1st of September to the 22nd of September. I wonder. In the year 2001, yeah, you know where this one is going, with zero mention of the world-altering event that happened between those two dates. Are you effing kidding me? What? What? None of Dr. Fraud's other characters mention current events either, which is just as stupid and unbelievable and ridiculous. But that one absolutely takes the cake for WTF. Number 3. Speaking of, why did she expect anyone to believe a devoted diarist would never mention any world events, major news stories, or even pop culture? What? Did she want us to think they were airheaded ditzes who cared less about anything beyond their immediate lives? I'm totally lost for words. Real-life published journals cover many topics, not just the writer's personal lives. I know that's shocking. She didn't read widely in her genre like every single writer is encouraged to do. I mean, I understand maybe you're making some newbie mistakes when you're just starting out or getting back into writing after a long time, or just really starting to get serious about your craft when just writing for fun for 30 years or whatever, or maybe you just don't understand, or you've only read really older books, so you don't understand what's the current contemporary standards and trends to write for without hopefully losing your own natural voice. But she was just, I don't think she read any published journals ever, particularly like 20th century and the decade she was working in, particularly even by teens of any era. Like, I have a whole future video and blog post planned, several actually, about how she did not understand psychology and like the clues we know from all of her books, how she did not understand how teenagers work, like she didn't know how to research. I'm gonna have so much fun ripping into this fraud over and over again. Number 4, if Kim is smart enough to have skipped a grade and a half at age 9, why does she never exhibit any intelligence or maturity? And you never know what that old fraud was thinking upstairs, like given her crappy track record. But I'm assuming skipping a grade and a half means she skipped a grade like somewhere in the middle of the year, like, December, January, thereabouts. So she like basically skipped her like half of the grade she was like coming out of and half of the other grade. But who knows what the old fraud was thinking. And anyway, grade, I mean, I of course, giving my age, I was born at very late 1979. I did know some people who were skipped grades, and if not for some like certain like issues I had that were like there wasn't really a name for them at the time. Obviously, that's a story for another post. I probably would have been allowed to skip a grade, or at least start kindergarten early, particularly because like in New York State, the birthday cutoff is December 31st. But anyway, it was starting to become, less and less as, Kim, if she were real, were coming up. So there are other ways to, engage and like do enrichment and stuff for like really like talented advanced students beyond, oh, we'll just skip them a grade and like only care about like academic development. Oh, who cares about like social and emotional and mental, psychological, whatever. But anyway, like that's probably a thing for a whole other topic as well for the psychology video. Number 5, her parents are as enabling and coddling as Nancy's. I had so many things to say about that in my Everything Wrong with It Happened to Nancy videos. And this is just examples I've seen so far. I'm sure I'll come up with some others when I read more and more of the book. They let her take several days off school, 4 days, including, I think, a weekend, to visit her older sisters who live like 1,000 miles away or so on the other end of the U.S., are cool with her skipping class to call them to say a UCLA gymnastics coach wants to see her in person. Like, seriously, you're skipping school? She's not even saying you're making the team. She's just, oh, your coach at the high school sent her a video and she thinks you have promised and want to see you in person. Like, that's worth skipping class over. And her parents, oh, Daddy skipped a jig and did a dance on top of the table, and oh, Mommykins couldn't stop screaming in delight. What? I hate this woman. She's an idiot. And take off work to redecorate the apartment, which Kim is constantly complaining about. I want a precious little housey-kins. I'm just a NIMBY. Apartments are terrible. Like, who wants to live in an apartment when you could have a huge-ass McMansion with a precious yardykins? So they redecorated the apartment as a surprise and taking off work to do that. It was a surprise for their spoilt brat daughter when she comes home from visiting her sisters. It's, I read Unmasked Alice by Rick Emerson twice. It doesn't appear she was like spoiled by her own parents. Maybe she was projecting, I wanted Mommykins and Daddykins to treat me like a little princess. I wanted them to spoil me and coddle me and like a good little Molly Mormon's parents should. Oh, I hate this woman. Number 6, I mentioned this in the last, and one of the 3 names I'm about to mention, I didn't yet see that when I was flipping through the book, and it's particularly not obvious, like fitting for this character because he, acts like a totally like rapey, like, what, trying to like put the moves on Kim. There are characters named Dick, Rod, and BJ on guys a few years younger than I am. Like, wow. Even Dr. Fraud couldn't have been that ignorant of modern slang. Raise your hand if you have ever known a Richard born since the 60s who goes by Dick, or anyone of the same, like, age range younger who goes by BJ or Rod. Like, I mean, actually, I did mention in a video, I forget which one, I didn't personally know her. She was a lot younger than I am, but, she was like frequently in the women's locker room at the Albany JCC. She was in the swim team, so like she and her like swim team buddies were like changing at the same time. I was there many times. Her name was BJ. Like, she was like a teenager. And even more like surprisingly, her first name was Barbara. Like, when do you ever see either like a teenager born in like the very, very late 20th century or maybe like early 21st century who was named Barbara or who goes by BJ? That was just, wow, like totally. So was Dr. Fraud just having a laugh and trolling everyone? Like, seriously. Number 7, most serious gymnasts start way before 7th grade. I looked it up. Frequently it's like, age 6, sometimes even as like, 4 or 5. It's like one of those sports like skating. The earlier you start, the better. Even accounting for skipping a grade at age 9, or should I say a grade and a half, that's still on the late end. It takes years of intense training to compete at the top level, and younger bodies, like imagine that, are more physically suited to learning and perfecting all those gravity-defying moves without injury or hesitation. Number 8, if Kim is so devoted to gymnastics, why does she have so much free time? Like seriously, she's writing about all these other things besides constantly like being in the gym and training and doing stuff in her spare time. Maybe the common room of their fancy little apartment with a restaurant and all these other like swanky luxuries. Oh, maybe she could go into like a spare room they have, or maybe they even have a devoted gym she can work out, or like go places, like do anything that's constantly devoted to training with like almost no life outside. Like serious athletes are training every spare hour. That's kind of how they get to be good and in serious contention for making Olympic teams, or like world national championships, like winning medals, like having a real like chance at a good career, because like they weren't like sitting on their lazy asses all day long writing in their journals and like being boy crazy and going to the mall and constantly like visiting their sisters and all this other stuff. Number 9, speaking of, Kim's older sisters, 11 years her senior, are named Dara and Lara. Ugh, what? Even in the pre-sonogram era, there were ways to detect twins, as I mentioned in the previous video. For example, the woman would start to show earlier. That's a big one. The stomach itches a lot more because it's expanding more to accommodate the two fetuses growing within, like earlier signs of pregnancy, like the pregnancy glow, like morning sickness, like just all these other things, and detecting two heartbeats from the midwife or the doctor. I mean, like it's not like, oh wow, there's another baby. It's like it's the year 1200. We had no way of like even suspecting it. Giving twins rhyming names is seriously lazy and thoughtless, or names that sound almost exactly alike, like some of those stupid names I saw in Maury, like Tania and Tanaya, or Cristal and Christelle, or Gregoriana and Gregoriana. Like, are you wanting to make your kids hate you? Like, I couldn't even, like, who can tell those names apart? I just don't understand people who give twins almost the same name. It's insulting and dehumanizing. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah, so even if the second baby is a surprise, like, why would you not think, oh, maybe just in case we have twins, or this is a name I like if the sonogram is wrong, if I was finding out in advance, or, if I wasn't knowing in advance, this is the name I would have used for the opposite sex, or this is a name I have in mind for like a future baby because I want more kids, or if I have other kids, it's not, oh, no time to think of a second name, let's just immediately give it a rhyming name because we have like no like originality. We don't care about treating our children as individuals. They're also frequently called the twins, as though they're one person in two bodies. Like, can we please leave these stupid attitudes like behind? Like, they should never have happened in the first place, of acting like twins are just like the same person. They just happen to inhabit two different bodies. Number 10, the usual stupid trademarks. I hate these so much. Like constantly writing in all caps, using excessive exclamation points, giving the time of day for many entries. I'm surprised she didn't do it like nearly as often as in her other books. Maybe she was trying to like throw off her detractors like on the trail. Oh, see, I don't do it all the time. No, this journalist doesn't always use the time of day for as many entries. You can't accuse me of like writing all of these books. Not everyone writes the same way. Reusing the same exact phrases from other books. Repeating words thrice for emphasis, like who does that? And the teeth gratingly annoying mommykins worship. There's even one stupid scene I skimmed, like when I was skimming through it, like Kim just, oh, she can't handle college. Oh, poor baby. She misses mommy too much. And she has to call home at night at the sorority house. And she and mommy, they just spend hours on the phone crying together. That's the kind of thing that gets you made fun of at university. like whoever, eavesdropped on her or found out about it. Hey girls, check this out. Baby Kimmykins is such a baby. She can't function without her mommy. Kim had to call mommy on the phone and they were bawling together and Kimmy was crying like a little baby. Go home to mommy, Kimmykins. Don't come back until you're a big girl who wants independence and privacy from your parents. I just do not understand. Like, I'm sure Dr. Fraud was projecting a lot of her own, like what she had wished for with her own family through her characters are like, all families should be like this. And the whole, like on her gravestone is one of her cult's favorite mantras, families are forever. It's just, I'm going to mention this a lot more in the psychology video, but like if you're, and I've mentioned this in a number of other videos about her books as well, if something has gone very wrong in an adolescent's attachment, if they are not like pulling away from the parents by, adolescence and seeking like privacy and independence, like freedom, more space. And it's just not normal at all for a well-adjusted teenager who is like mentally his or her age to still be like clinging on the hip with their damn parents and like wanting to hang out with them. And I just love hanging out with mommy instead of other teenagers. I can't live without mommy. Precious, precious mommy. I'm so glad mommy is my mommy. I'm not exaggerating or being hyperbolic. Those lines appear over and over again in her books. Her characters are constantly declaring their love for their precious, precious mommies. I needless to say, I cannot relate to women who have lovey-dovey, close-knit relationships with their mothers. Not everyone rolls like her characters. Number 11, real eating disorders don't come on full-blown at lightning speed, nor are they easily quickly resolved in less than a year. That's so insulting to people who have actually had eating disorders or who had loved ones who went through that. I will have much more to say about this topic in a separate post. I'll get ready for that one. Number 12, what real teen in the history of ever calls herself childish, immature, not as intelligent as she thinks, babyish, etc.? A number of her other characters do this, like, oh, I'm just a stupid teenager. I think I know everything, but I don't really know it. I mean, I can kind of, I'm not going to say like she was intelligent, but I'm kind of sort of giving her the benefit of the doubt. She was trawling through textbooks. Trying to express how many teenagers naturally feel like insecure. Maybe I'm not sure of what's going on. Looking back, maybe I could have done this differently, but they don't express it like that. Oh, maybe this bad thing happened because I was such a dork and I did something to like make myself a victim, or I was just like not mature enough to handle this. Like, no, that's not how teenagers talk, and that's not even how their thought processes work. I have so much to rant about that in the upcoming psychology video. Number 13. Again, per the year that lines up with the calendar dates given, UCLA did not start classes on the 28th of September 2001. They started on the 25th of September, which is really late for the modern era. Like, I'm really surprised to see that. It seems Dr. Fraud was trying to set the story in 2000 to 2001, since UCLA indeed began on the 28th of September in 2000. And I'm positive, given all of her other like failures and mistakes in her every single one of her books, she did not deliberately set out to look that up, research it. She probably just like stumbled into it or just happened to like know about it anyway and just decided to insert it because she could not be arsed to do a basic research for like anything for her books. This woman could not be arsed to keep her dates and times consistent or even accurate. Number 14. I'm all for sensitive men in touch with their feelings and unashamed to openly express emotions, but it's laughable how Lawrence cries at the drop of a hat. So many writers utterly fail at believably depicting the opposite sex. If Dr. Fraud were a man, the female characters would be the type who breast boobily down the stairs. Number 15. Unless things were different back in the day, and I'm going to guess they weren't, I'm going to call BS on first-year students being allowed to move right into a UCLA sorority house, or any school sorority, before even rushing and being invited to join. And it's my understanding having a legacy naturally gives you preference at many sororities and frats, but it doesn't mean, oh, okay, you're welcome in before school even officially starts. Start living in our sorority house or the frat with us. You don't even have to go through like rushing, or maybe you want to join others. Nope, you're bonded to this one because your parents or your older sibling or your uncle, grandparents, whatever, were in our house like 20 plus years ago. Like, she did not understand anything. I mean, I was never into Greek life. I believed a lot of these things from the, the movies, like, oh, everyone is constantly having a wild sex party and, oh, terrible drinking parties. I mean, there's lots of truth to that. I could tell so many stories about. I lived at the Hillel House at UMass Amherst my senior year, and it was on Frat Row because the building itself used to be a frat that got busted for, like, 89 kegs of alcohol at a party in, like, I think it was like 1988 or 89, but I think it was 88. And before that, before it was a frat, and the frat was also busted for pretty nasty hazing. And before the building was a frat, it was a sorority that got busted for prostitution. So yeah, I know there's a lots of like wild stuff that goes on, but it's not like always the way the media depicts it. So I'm surprised Dr. Fraud even approved of sororities. Maybe she was going by the, like, oh, the 1920s or 30s style of sororities before they got the reputation of, over-sexed and over-drinking. But, anyway, number 16. If Dr. Fraud intended to set this book in 2000 to 2001, why doesn't Kim mention the election even once? Kind of another big historical event to just gloss over. Was Dr. Fraud that disconnected from current events in her own life? Is this yet another Mormon thing? Oh, we should be in this world, not of this world. Number 17. Outside of the South, with maybe a few exceptions regionally, but I don't think Arizona would have been one of them. Bourgeois suburban white girls like Dr. Fraud's characters, and we know she was deliberately making them like bourgeois suburban white girls because, like, I mentioned that in the Unmasked Alice book. It was like, oh, drugs are affecting our nice lily white and delightsome kids, to quote the Book of Mormon. Like, seriously, I know they have changed it now. I think it's like pure and delightsome, something like that. But for like decades, like over 100 years, it was white and delightsome. It was like, oh, we need to care about these issues because it's happening to nice white kids from suburbia and like bourgeois homes, not just those icky ethnic people and living in big cities. I hate this woman. But anyway, they did not call their mothers mama in that era. That's an annoying trend, sorry not sorry, that only started getting mainstream in maybe the late 2000s, early 2010s. All these like women who want to be, oh, I'm cool, I'm hip, I'm a mama. I'm not a mom or a mum or a mother. I'm a mama. And oh, I'm into the hippie crunchy groove. I'm an anti-vaxxer and I pretend I live on a homestead and I make all my own wheat. I'm a cool, fun mama. Like, I'll link to an article from Long Reads in the description box called The Rise of Mama, like how all these like annoying women, oh, I'm better than women who call themselves mom or mom. I'm a cool, fun mama. I know I sound like a broken record, but I just hate this trend of like, they even call other women mamas. Oh, I was helping another mama. Attention C-section mamas. Are there any mamas in the San Francisco area? Mama-ing it up. Oh, if I ever have children, I do not want anyone to call me a damn mama. Sorry, not sorry. Number 18. Why does Kim call her professors teachers? Like, seriously, that's just stupid. Number 19. Well, I agree the word diary conjures up images of a small notebook with a stereotypically girly cover and a lock in the modern era, and maybe like a ribbon around the lock too. It's really just personal preference if you choose to call it a journal instead of a diary. Famous published diarists of yore, like Samuel Pepys, Beatrix Potter, Anais Nin, and Franz Kafka, surely didn't think of themselves as childish for not using the word journal to describe the books containing their writings. And she says it right on the very first page. It's just stupid. How would you, who expresses herself like this? March 1st. Wow. Today, Melanie, that's her best friend, and I were checking out things we couldn't afford in the mall. Her characters loved the mall. When she spotted a little table stacked with journals. Neither of us had one since we were little kids. Like, why? Then they were called diaries, and they were a third the size of these journals and a third as thick. It will be fun next year, when I am in college, to read about my last year in high school. It's like, not even her last year, it's like the last semester. Going from a diary to a journal is like exploding into adulthood, said no teen ever. Cue the all caps. Scary. I'm totally lost for words. It doesn't even matter what the notebook looks like, the trim size, the page count, like the whatever about it. Like, just call it whatever you want. It's just like marketing to call it like a journal versus a diary. And I do agree, maybe it is some like internalized misogyny I have subconsciously for like looking down on the word diary and like thinking, oh, it's like a book this size and it has like unicorns and hearts and like pink flowers and Barbie stuff. And it's like only this long and like you're writing with a pen with a feather on the back of it. But, anyway, it's just personal preference to just like, we'll call it whatever. Just, this is just another stupid thing about this idiot. Number 20. Wow. Just like Alice, Kim also magically gets to bring her journal into the psych ward. Oh, I have so many more things I'm going to rant about this book in my upcoming videos and blog posts. So thank you guys very much for watching all the way through to the end. And I will see you again very soon for my next video, like whether it's about this book or other books or just other topics in general. I do love seeing comments from you guys. I've been a little bit, in arrears of getting back to them with my like writing and volunteer transcription commitments lately, but I will get back to the comments and I will see you soon. So thanks again for watching. Bye.